In 2014, former Egyptian Minister of Antiquities and renowned Egyptologist Zahi Hawass was accused of stealing several ancient Egyptian artifacts. But among the items that were allegedly taken, one object stood out above all the others: ancient copper wires from inside the Great Pyramid of Giza. At first, this may not seem unusual, but when you remember that the pyramid was built thousands of years ago, long before electricity was ever discovered, it raises a fascinating question. Why were there copper wires inside the pyramid? And why would anyone want to steal them? Some researchers believe this wasn't just a case of artifact theft. They argue it may have been an attempt to hide a much bigger secret from the public. In fact, some historians don't believe the Great Pyramid was simply the tomb of Pharaoh Khufu. Instead, they suggest it may have been built by an even older and more advanced civilization. Even Elon Musk once sparked controversy by suggesting that aliens built the pyramids. As unbelievable as that sounds, the strange discoveries made inside the Great Pyramid have led many people to ask an even bigger question. Have we misunderstood the true purpose of the pyramid all along? According to the traditional explanation, the Great Pyramid took around 20 years to build. Millions of massive stone blocks were used, and thousands of workers quarried, transported, and assembled them with incredible precision. Yet, despite all that effort, the structure doesn't resemble other Egyptian tombs as much as you might expect. If you visit Giza today, your tour guide will confidently tell you that the pyramid was built as the final resting place of Pharaoh Khufu. But the deeper you look into its history, the more mysteries begin to appear. For example, the pyramid didn't always look the way it does today. Its outer surface was once covered with highly polished white limestone, making it shine brilliantly under the sunlight like a gigantic mirror. At the very top stood a capstone known as the Pyramidion, which was reportedly covered in gold, reflecting the sun and making the pyramid visible from miles away. Over the centuries, the smooth white casing disappeared, and the golden capstone was lost. Yet even today, the Great Pyramid remains one of the most extraordinary structures ever built. It now stands about 130 meters tall, but in ancient times, it was even higher, remaining the tallest man-made structure on Earth for more than 3,000 years. But the real surprise begins the moment you step inside the Great Pyramid. You might expect to find priceless treasures, golden artifacts, or even the mummy of Pharaoh Khufu himself. Instead, you'll find almost nothing. To this day, Khufu's body has never been discovered inside the pyramid. The only major object inside the so-called King's Chamber is a massive granite box that Egyptologists identify as the pharaoh's sarcophagus. But unlike the beautifully decorated sarcophagi found in other royal tombs, this one is completely plain. It has no inscriptions, no carvings, and no decorations. In fact, it hardly looks like a royal coffin at all. Whenever historians are asked what happened to Khufu's mummy and the priceless burial treasures, the answer is almost always the same. They were most likely stolen by tomb robbers thousands of years ago. But is that explanation really enough? The mysteries don't stop there. The King's Chamber has incredibly unusual acoustic properties. Even the smallest sound echoes through the room in a unique way, almost as if the chamber was carefully engineered to amplify vibrations. Which raises another question. Why would a tomb need such extraordinary acoustics? And that's not the only mystery. Deep beneath the pyramid are underground passages leading to areas that remain unexplored even today. Researchers have also discovered underground water beneath the structure. Yet no one can fully explain why the pyramid was built directly above it. Then, in 2017, scientists scanned the Great Pyramid using cosmic ray imaging technology. The result shocked the world. They discovered a massive hidden void inside the pyramid that no one had known existed. Years later, its true purpose is still a mystery. Some Egyptologists believe it was simply a construction ramp or an empty space left during the building process. Others argue that this explanation leaves too many unanswered questions. How could a monument that supposedly took 20 years to build still contain unexplained chambers and hidden spaces? With every new discovery, more people begin to question the traditional story. That's when a completely different theory emerges. What if the Great Pyramid was never intended to be a tomb at all? What if it was actually an ancient power plant? Supporters of this theory point to several intriguing details. The granite used inside the pyramid contains quartz crystals, a material capable of generating electrical energy under pressure. The pyramid also sits directly above underground water, which could have played a role in conducting energy. Even the golden capstone that once crowned the pyramid is believed by some to have acted as a conductor or part of a much larger electrical system. Some researchers even claim that the granite boxes inside the pyramid weren't coffins at all, but components of an ancient energy storage system. And if that's true, then those mysterious copper wires allegedly removed from the pyramid may have been one of the most important pieces of the entire puzzle. But is there any historical or scientific evidence that supports such an extraordinary idea? The answer may lie with a man who was centuries ahead of his time, Nikola Tesla. Himself could act as a giant electrical generator. This is where the story introduces one of history's most brilliant minds, Nikola Tesla. Tesla believed that electricity could be transmitted across the world without wires. In the early 1900s, he claimed that the Earth itself could act as a giant electrical generator, and that the atmosphere was filled with energy waiting to be harnessed. At the time, most scientists dismissed his ideas as impossible. But Tesla refused to give up. He began building one of the most ambitious projects of his life, the Wardenclyffe Tower, a massive structure designed to transmit electricity wirelessly across great distances. What many people don't know is that Tesla was fascinated by the Great Pyramid of Giza. He noticed that the pyramid was aligned with true north, with astonishing precision and accuracy that would be difficult to achieve even with modern technology. But that wasn't the only coincidence. Researchers later discovered that the pyramid's dimensions appeared to follow remarkable mathematical relationships connected to the Earth itself. Tesla also believed that underground water played a crucial role in transmitting energy. Interestingly, the Great Pyramid was built directly above underground water channels. When Tesla searched for a location to build his experimental tower, he looked for similar geological conditions. Inside the tower, he installed enormous copper coils and placed a giant metal conductor at the top. His goal was simple, but revolutionary: to send electricity through the Earth and the atmosphere instead of using wires. In other words, Tesla was trying to build a worldwide wireless power system. And that brings us back to the Great Pyramid. What if it had been built for exactly the same purpose, thousands of years earlier? If that's true, then where was all that energy supposed to go? Supporters of this theory point to another mysterious feature of ancient Egypt, the obelisks. These towering stone monuments were also carved from granite, a rock rich in quartz crystals. Some researchers believe the obelisks weren't simply monuments or religious symbols. They may have acted as giant receivers for energy transmitted from the Great Pyramid. Even more intriguing, many Egyptian obelisks no longer stand in Egypt. Today, they can be found in cities such as Rome, London, Paris, New York City, and Istanbul. According to this theory, they may once have formed part of a much larger network designed to distribute energy across vast distances. Unfortunately, Tesla never had the chance to prove his ideas. Funding for the Wardenclyffe Tower was cut, construction stopped, and his dream of wireless electricity died with the project. But imagine if he had succeeded. The world today might look completely different. Power lines could have become obsolete, and wireless electricity might have been as common as Wi-Fi. But one important question still remains. If the ancient Egyptians really possessed this technology, where are the devices that used it? The answer may lie in one of the strangest archaeological discoveries ever made. If the Great Pyramid really was an ancient power station, then one question becomes impossible to ignore. Where are the devices that used all that electricity? During excavations across Egypt, archaeologists have never discovered machines, engines, or electrical equipment that clearly required a power source. However, they did uncover something just as mysterious. Inside the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, there are ancient carvings that many people believe resemble modern light bulbs. Mainstream Egyptologists argue that these images are symbolic religious artwork, but supporters of the power plant theory see something entirely different. They believe the carvings may depict an ancient electrical device. If that's true, it would suggest that the Egyptians understood electricity more than 2,000 years before modern science. Some even speculate that advanced technology may have helped them construct monuments that still puzzle engineers today. Imagine for a moment that this theory is correct. History would have to be rewritten. Ancient Egypt wouldn't simply be remembered as one of the greatest civilizations in history. It would be remembered as the birthplace of wireless energy. Countries that now possess ancient Egyptian obelisks, such as Italy, the United Kingdom, France, Turkey, and the United States, might have inherited pieces of a forgotten global energy network. Instead of communication towers, our skylines might be filled with giant pyramid-shaped structures transmitting power across continents. It sounds unbelievable, but despite decades of research, no one has been able to fully explain every mystery surrounding the Great Pyramid. Was it truly nothing more than a royal tomb? Or was it a machine built for a purpose we still don't understand? The truth is, no one knows for certain. Perhaps one day, a new discovery hidden deep inside the Great Pyramid will finally reveal the answer. Until then, the greatest mystery of ancient Egypt remains unsolved.